Daniel straightened his tie for the third time, though the knot had never been the problem. The issue was the room, the tension vibrating in the modern conference hall like an electric hum. Glass walls reflected the city's skyline in the distance, casting long shadows over the polished table. Across from him, Lucas smiled casually, tapping a pen against his notebook. It was the same smile he had worn the first day they had conceived the startup idea. The same smile Daniel had trusted for years. "Relax, Danny," Lucas said, his tone half joke, half command. "We've got this. We know the numbers, we know the product, and we know the investor. Everything else is noise." Daniel nodded, though the pit in his stomach didn't vanish. He had spent months preparing for this pitch, memorizing every revenue projection, every market statistic, every risk assessment. Yet now, sitting across from Lucas, the friend he had trusted with everything, he felt a flicker of unease. The investor arrived right on time, a tall woman in her mid-40s with sharp eyes that seemed to pierce through pretense. She extended a hand first to Lucas, then to Daniel. "Mr. Valente, Mr. Ruiz," she said, her tone polite but brisk. "I've read your proposal. I'd like to go over some details." Daniel took a deep breath. This was the moment. Years of late nights coding, meetings, and sacrifices had led to this very room. He started with the product, describing its innovative features, the scalability, the potential for market disruption. Lucas chimed in occasionally, his voice calm and confident, painting the picture of a seamless partnership. Everything seemed perfect until the discussion turned to the contract. "Your ownership distribution," the investor said, sliding a tablet across the table. "I noticed something unusual in the equity clause. It states that one partner retains total control over company profits after 5 years. Could you clarify?" Daniel's forked glance at Lucas was instinctive. His heart stopped. Yes, of course," he said, trying to keep his voice steady. "That must be a mistake. We're equal partners. Lucas and I." Lucas's hand subtly covered Daniel's mid-sentence, a practiced smile on his face. "Oh, that? Just a standard clause," he said lightly. "It only kicks in if one of us leaves the company. It's common in startup contracts. Nothing to worry about." Daniel's throat tightened. Something in Lucas's tone didn't match his usual transparency. His eyes flicked to the tablet, scanning the clause again. The wording was precise, legalistic, but the implication was clear. After 5 years, Lucas could claim complete control, and Daniel had no leverage. I signed this," Daniel asked, disbelief sharpening his voice. "Of course you did," Lucas said smoothly. "We went over every line together." Daniel shook his head, trying to process the words. Every memory of their meetings replayed in his mind. He had trusted him blindly, believing in their shared dream. The numbers, the spreadsheets, the late-night brainstorming sessions, it had all felt mutual. Yet here, in black and white, Lucas had created a backdoor. The investor tilted her head. "It's unusual, Mr. Valente. Most co-founders maintain equal shares unless legally amended later. I'll need your reassurance that both of you understand and agree to this clause before we proceed." Daniel swallowed hard. "Yes, of course. We, will clarify this immediately," he said, voice tight, forcing a smile that felt hollow. After the investor excused herself for a moment to take a call, Daniel leaned toward Lucas. "What the hell is this?" he whispered, so low he feared even the walls might hear. Lucas's smile never wavered. "Danny, relax. It's just a technicality. Nothing that matters unless the company fails, or unless one of us leaves. I told you it's standard. Investors like seeing clauses that protect continuity. Don't overthink it. Standard? I don't. Remember agreeing to this." Daniel hissed, his knuckles tightening around the pen he had been holding. "I read every line, Lucas. Every line." Lucas placed a hand on Daniel's arm, the gesture almost comforting, but Daniel recoiled. "Danny, you're too emotional right now. We're presenting a professional front. Let's not make this awkward in front of her." Daniel's stomach turned. The professional front. That was Lucas's specialty. Smiling, charming, deflecting. And yet, here he was, twisting reality under Daniel's nose. The friendship they had shared, The trust he had placed so freely, it felt suddenly fragile, like sand slipping through fingers. When the investor returned, Daniel forced himself into composure. He answered her questions as best he could, though every word tasted bitter. The rest of the pitch was a blur. Numbers, projections, strategies, all background noise compared to the gnawing realization that the person he had trusted most might have been plotting against him all along. After the meeting ended, they stepped outside into the crisp city air. Lucas clapped him on the back, the same old gesture that once symbolized camaraderie. "You did great, Danny." Investor loved the presentation, Lucas said, his smile warm. Danny shook his head, anger and betrayal twisting in his chest. "Lucas, that clause. You didn't tell me about that." Lucas's eyes flickered, almost imperceptibly, before his practiced charm returned. "I did. It's just a safeguard. Nothing more. I thought you'd understand once we talked." "No big deal. No big deal," Daniel repeated, voice rising slightly. "This is everything. You've basically cut me out of the company I helped build." Lucas sighed, exasperated as if Daniel were a child misunderstanding a lesson. "Danny, calm down. Look around you. We just landed a major investor meeting. We can fight ghosts later. Right now, we focus on the future." Daniel's fists clenched. The city lights reflected in his eyes, sharp and accusing. "The future? My future? Or yours?" Lucas's jaw tightened. "Ouch," he said lightly, but Daniel saw the edge beneath the surface, the first true crack in the mask. They walked in silence for a few moments, the city bustling around them. Daniel's mind raced, replaying every interaction he had with Lucas over the past 5 years. Every decision, every shared triumph. Had it all been a setup? The idea seemed preposterous, yet undeniable. "Danny," Lucas's voice broke through, softer this time. "I'm your friend. Don't let a clause ruin everything we've built. Trust me, you'll thank me later." Daniel shook his head, the weight of betrayal settling like a stone in his chest. "Friendship isn't about clauses, Lucas. It's about trust. And you broke that." Lucas said nothing, only offering a thin smile, as if words themselves were inadequate. By the time Daniel returned home that night, his apartment felt foreign. Sophia, his girlfriend, greeted him with warmth, expecting the usual excitement after a big pitch. But Daniel's face was drawn, haunted. "What happened?" she asked, taking his hand. Daniel hesitated, trying to find words that wouldn't shatter her world. "It's complicated," he said finally. "Something came up in the contract. Something I didn't expect." Sophia's eyes narrowed with concern. "Daniel, whatever it is, we'll figure it out. You're not alone in this." He nodded, grateful for her empathy, yet the betrayal still burned inside him. Lucas had altered the contract, betrayed his trust, and perhaps his future. Daniel knew one thing with terrifying clarity. He couldn't let it go. Not yet. And so, as the city slept, Daniel sat at his kitchen table, the contract glowing under the harsh light of his laptop. Every word now a weapon in a battle that had only just begun. The next morning, sunlight pierced through Daniel's blinds, but it did little to warm the chill in his chest. Coffee in hand, he stared at his laptop, the contract, document blinking on the screen. Every clause, every subtle word Lucas had inserted seemed to mock him. He hadn't slept properly, replaying the meeting over and over, feeling both anger and disbelief coursing through him. Sophia entered the kitchen, her brow furrowed at his expression. "You've been up all night again," she said softly, placing a hand on his shoulder. "Daniel, you look like hell." "I didn't sleep," Daniel admitted, rubbing his temples. "It's the contract. Lucas, he did something. He stopped, struggling to put it into words without letting panic fully take over. "What did he do?" Sophia asked, concern sharpening her voice. Daniel swallowed hard, forcing his mind to work clearly despite the racing pulse. "There's a clause. Equity. After 5 years, it gives him full control of the company. I didn't know about it. I never agreed to it. He essentially cut me out." Sophia stiffened. "Cut you out?" "Daniel, that's serious." "Are you sure?" "I've read it 100 times," he said, voice low and controlled. And I went over every email, every draft. He must have manipulated it. Everything we built, he could just take it away. Sophia's hand tightened on his arm. You need to be careful. Don't confront him yet. But you have to do something. Daniel nodded, appreciating her clarity. I know. I thought I could trust him. Lucas isn't just my partner. He's like a brother. And now, his words faltered. I don't know who he is anymore. Later that day, Daniel tried to focus at work, but every glance at Lucas felt like staring at a stranger in a mask. Lucas greeted him with the same casual charm as always, shaking Daniel's hand firmly and smiling. You look tired, Danny, Lucas said. Too much late-night prep? Daniel forced a smile. Yeah, just running numbers. Lucas leaned casually against the desk. You're overthinking this. Really? Investors love seeing a clause that protects the company. It's not personal. Don't let it get into your head. Daniel bristled, but the calmness in Lucas's tone made him pause. Could it really be nothing? Could he be imagining things? But the words of the investor still rang in his ears. Unusual, total control after 5 years, determined to find the truth. Daniel waited until the office emptied and then slipped into the quiet workspace of their shared office. The cleaning staff had left for the evening. Dust motes danced in the streaks of light from the tall windows. He opened Lucas's desk drawer, pretending to search for pens, but secretly looking for anything that could shed light on the contract's manipulation. He found a few folders, neatly labeled, and started flipping through them. A stack of emails printed on standard paper caught his eye. He picked one up, reading quickly. The words were polite, businesslike, but Daniel's stomach dropped as he realized what he held. These were communications with the startup's lawyer, drafts of the contract, clearly outlining revisions that Daniel had never been shown. Lucas's signature appeared consistently, but Daniel's did not. A faint noise behind him made him spin around. It was Carla, the junior assistant, peering hesitantly through the doorway. Daniel, I didn't mean to. It's okay, he interrupted, trying to calm his racing heart. I just needed to check something. Nothing important. Carla hesitated, then stepped closer, lowering her voice. I don't know if I should say this, but I overheard Lucas on the phone a few weeks ago. He was talking to the lawyer about changing the contract. He didn't want you to know. I thought it was weird. Daniel's chest tightened. You heard that? Exactly what did he say? Carla shifted uncomfortably. He said something like, we'll keep Danny in the dark. He trusts me. By the time he notices, it'll be too late. I didn't think much of it at the time, but now, I'm not so sure. Daniel's mind reeled. The betrayal was deeper than he had imagined. It wasn't a mistake or a misunderstanding. Lucas had planned this. The feeling of being stabbed in the back by someone he had called a friend made his hands tremble. Thank you for telling me, Carla, he said, his voice firm despite the storm inside. You've just saved me from a lot of trouble. But you have to promise me. You tell no one. Not yet. Okay, she whispered, nodding. I just don't want to be on the wrong side of this. After Carla left, Daniel sank into his chair, his mind racing. He needed proof. He needed leverage. And he needed a plan. But more than anything, he needed to confront the truth. Lucas had betrayed him, and the foundation of their friendship and their company was crumbling. The following day, Lucas tried to maintain the usual rhythm of business, discussing product design and marketing strategies. But Daniel noticed a subtle arrogance in his voice, a faint smirk whenever he mentioned deadlines or investors. It was as if Lucas already assumed he had the upper hand, confident that Daniel could do nothing. At lunch, Daniel met Sophia at a quiet cafe near the office. The aroma of coffee and warm bread normally brought comfort, but today it was heavy with tension. I can't believe he did this, Daniel muttered, stirring his espresso. I thought we were equals. I thought we were building something together. Sophia reached across the table, placing her hand over his. Daniel, you have to stay calm. Think logically. We can't act recklessly. You need evidence before confronting him. And her voice faltered slightly. And be careful. Lucas, he can be dangerous when cornered. Daniel sighed. I know, but it's hard, Sophia. I feel violated. Not just professionally, personally. I know, she said softly. It's okay to feel that. But right now, You need strategy, not emotion. Back at the office, Daniel began compiling every document, every email, every version of the contract he could find. Late into the night, he cross-referenced dates, signatures, and correspondence. Each discovery painted a clearer picture. Lucas had systematically rewritten the contract, ensuring Daniel's blind spots would keep him unaware. The weight of the realization pressed on him. This was more than a business betrayal. It was personal. Lucas had manipulated trust, friendship, and loyalty to secure his own gain. Daniel's stomach churned with anger, but beneath it lay a simmering determination. The next morning, he confronted Lucas in private. The office was empty, save for the humming of computers. "Lucas," Daniel said, voice steady, "I know about the contract. I know what you've done." Lucas's eyes widened slightly, just enough for Daniel to see the flicker of unease before it was masked by practiced calm. "Daniel, you're jumping to conclusions. It's not what you think, not what I think." Daniel's voice rose, though controlled. "I've seen the drafts, the emails. Carla overheard your conversations. You planned this, didn't you?" Lucas leaned back, smirking. "Planned? Danny, it's just a precaution. Every startup has clauses like that. You're reading too much into it." Daniel's hands clenched. "Too much into it? You lied to me. You betrayed me. This isn't precaution, it's sabotage." Lucas shrugged as if weightless. "I did what I had to do. You'll thank me later, once we're successful. Right now, you're letting your emotions cloud your judgment." Daniel stared at him, the full scope of the betrayal finally settling in. He had trusted him, shared everything, dreams, risks, even personal vulnerabilities, and Lucas had used it against him. I can't do this," Daniel said, turning away, his voice shaking. "Not like this." As he walked back to his desk, Daniel realized the fracture wasn't just in their partnership, it was in his life. Trust, friendship, and love were all now tinged with uncertainty. And while the path ahead was dangerous and uncertain, one thing was clear: he wouldn't go down quietly. The office was nearly empty when Daniel slipped back inside that night. The hum of computers and the faint whir of the air conditioning echoed like whispers in the silence. Most of the staff had gone home hours ago, and the building's fluorescent lights cast long, eerie shadows across the rows of desks. Daniel's pulse quickened as he moved through the space. Every step felt heavier, as though the weight of his decision to snoop was pressing down on him. He had always believed in honesty and trust, yet now he was sneaking through his own company as if he were a thief. He paused outside Lucas's glass-walled office. For years, that door had been a symbol of their shared ambition, their late nights brainstorming, their arguments that always ended in laughter. Now, it felt like a vault guarding secrets he was no longer privy to. Daniel pushed the door open slowly, the hinges creaking softly. Inside, the desk was immaculate as always. Lucas was a man obsessed with appearances, keeping everything in neat piles, as if order itself could be weaponized. Daniel sat at the desk, opened the drawers, and began searching. At first, he found nothing: contracts, vendor agreements, all neatly filed. Then, in a thin folder marked Archives, he found what he had been looking for: early drafts of their partnership contract. His breath caught. Each draft had subtle alterations. Phrasing shifted, clauses rewritten, words inserted like daggers hidden in plain sight. Daniel's signature appeared only on one version, the clean, original draft, before Lucas's careful edits. But in later drafts, Lucas's signature was there, bold, confident, mocking. Daniel flipped faster, his hands shaking. One document, in particular, made his blood run cold. It was an email chain between Lucas and the lawyer. "Keep it subtle. He won't notice if we phrase it as a continuity clause. Danny trusts me completely. He'll sign without hesitation." Daniel's chest tightened, the words stabbing deeper than any legal betrayal. "Trust me completely." That trust had been his undoing. He shoved the papers back into the folder, his mind racing. Just then, a faint sound startled him, the door creaking open. He spun around. It was Miguel, the night cleaner, carrying a mop and a bucket. His eyes widened when he saw Daniel rifling through the desk. "Oh, sorry, Mr. Valente," Miguel said quickly, setting the mop aside. "Didn't mean to disturb." Daniel forced a smile, his heart still pounding. "It's fine, Miguel. Just catching up on some work." Miguel hesitated, then lowered his voice. "If you're looking into Lucas, you should know. I saw him here late, a few weeks ago. He was shredding papers. Whole stacks of them. Looked important." Daniel froze. "You're sure?" Miguel nodded. "Yeah, he didn't see me. I didn't say anything. I don't want trouble. But I thought it was strange." Daniel's mind whirled. Shredded papers, altered contracts, secret emails. Lucas wasn't just protecting himself. He was erasing evidence. "Thank you, Miguel," Daniel said firmly. "This stays between us, all right?" Miguel nodded again, eyes wary, and slipped out of the office. Daniel sat back in the chair, exhaling shakily. His hands trembled as he opened the bottom drawer. There, shoved to the back, was a small black flash drive. It was unlabeled, but Lucas's paranoia had always been digital as much as physical. Daniel pocketed it and closed the drawer. Back at his apartment, the glow of his laptop screen painted the room in pale blue. Sophia sat nearby, watching him with quiet worry as he inserted the flash drive. "Are you sure you want to open that?" she asked. "I have to," Daniel muttered. His voice was flat, almost robotic. "If I don't know what's on here, I'll never sleep again." The folders loaded slowly. Inside were dozens of files, contracts, private correspondence, and notes. Daniel clicked one at random. It was an email thread between Lucas and a financial advisor. "Start routing funds offshore. Use the Cayman structure. Danny won't know until it's too late. Once the 5-year clause activates, I'll consolidate everything under my name." Sophia gasped. "Oh my God." Daniel clicked another file. This time it was a scanned note, written in Lucas's own handwriting. "Danny is too naive. He thinks loyalty is enough. By the time he realizes, he'll be a footnote in my story." Daniel's hands tightened into fists. His throat burned with fury, but beneath it all was something heavier: grief. Grief for the friendship he thought he had, for the partner he believed in, for the brotherhood that had been nothing but illusion. "He mocked me," Daniel whispered. "He used me. All this time, I was just a stepping stone." Sophia touched his arm gently. "Daniel, you have proof now. Real proof. But you need to be smart about this. Lucas isn't just ambitious. He's dangerous. You saw how far he's willing to go." Daniel stared at the files, his reflection fractured in the laptop screen. Proof wasn't enough. He needed leverage. He needed a way to fight back without losing everything. "I can't let him win," he said finally. "I won't let him take everything we built." The next day at the office, Lucas was all smiles, as if nothing had changed. He leaned casually against Daniel's desk, sipping coffee. "Investor called me this morning," Lucas said. "She's impressed. Wants to move forward with due diligence." "Big step, Danny." Daniel forced a polite nod. "That's good news." Lucas smirked. "See? Told you not to overthink. All this worry about the contract, it's just clutter. Focus on the bigger picture." Daniel held his gaze, forcing his expression to remain neutral. "You're right," he said, though his voice was cool. "Bigger picture." Inside, though, Daniel's resolve hardened. He wasn't just fighting for his company anymore. He was fighting for his dignity, for the truth, and for the chance to prove he wasn't the naive fool Lucas believed him to be. That night, as he closed his laptop, he whispered to himself, almost like a vow, "You wanted me blind, Lucas, but I see everything now." Daniel spent the entire next morning in his apartment, spread out over the kitchen table. Contracts, emails, and the files from Lucas's flash drive. He had spent the last 3 nights analyzing every detail, cross-referencing timestamps, signatures, and notes. Each revelation only added fuel to the fire. Lucas's betrayal wasn't sloppy or opportunistic. It was meticulous. Every step had been planned, every lie calculated. Sophia arrived with a bag of groceries, trying to lighten the mood. "You've been here all morning," she said, raising an eyebrow. "You're starting to resemble a vampire, pale and wired." Daniel glanced at her, managing a wry smile. "I'm just being thorough." "You mean obsessed," she said gently, setting down the bag. "Daniel, I know you want to fight him, but you have to do it carefully. Don't let this consume you. I can't just sit and do nothing, Daniel replied, his voice taut with anger. Lucas manipulated everything. If I don't act, I'll lose everything we built. He can't just get away with this. Sophia sat beside him, placing a hand over his. I know, but there's a right way to fight this. Evidence, witnesses, strategy. You can't let anger dictate your actions. That's exactly what Lucas wants. You losing control. Daniel exhaled, nodding reluctantly. You're right, but I need to know what exactly he's done. By late afternoon, Daniel had secured a confidential meeting with a lawyer specializing in corporate law. The office smelled of polished wood and leather, the quiet murmur of secretarial staff moving in the background. Daniel explained everything, laying out the emails, flash drive, and contract drafts. The lawyer, a composed woman named Helena, listened carefully, flipping through the files. This is significant, she said finally. Your partner has not only altered contractual terms without your knowledge, he may have engaged in fraudulent activity. These emails show intent, not just negligence. Daniel's stomach twisted. So what can I do? Helena leaned back in her chair. Legally, you have a few options. You can file for an injunction to prevent any further unilateral actions by Lucas. You can also pursue civil litigation for damages and breach of fiduciary duty. However, she paused, fixing him with a steady gaze. I have to warn you, this will be messy. Investors may be wary, employees may panic, and Lucas will fight aggressively. It could destroy the company if not handled carefully. Daniel's hands clenched. I don't care about easy. I care about right. Helena nodded. Then we'll need everything documented, corroborated, and airtight. If Lucas senses weakness, he'll exploit it. Daniel left the office with a folder thick with legal notes, his mind spinning. The fight wasn't just for equity, it was for survival. That evening, Daniel returned to the office, pretending to work late. Lucas was there too, lounging against a desk, casually scrolling through his phone. Burning the midnight oil? Lucas asked with a smile that made Daniel's stomach twist. You're looking tense. Daniel forced calm. Just reviewing numbers. I want to make sure everything's perfect for the investor update tomorrow. Lucas's eyes flicked toward him, sharp and calculating. Good. Attention to detail is important, but don't let it consume you, Danny. Sometimes you need to trust that things will work out. Daniel's fingers itched to throw the folder in front of him and confront Lucas directly, but he remembered Sophia's advice. Strategy, not emotion. He nodded, smiling politely. Of course. The next morning brought another shock. Sophia called him during breakfast, voice tight. Daniel, I need to tell you something, she said. It's about Lucas. What is it? Daniel asked, heart thudding. Sophia hesitated, then swallowed. He once made advances toward me. I didn't tell you before because I didn't want to complicate things, but it happened months ago. I rejected him, but I think that's part of why he's so manipulative. Daniel's blood ran cold. What? Sophia, why didn't you tell me? I didn't think you'd believe me, and I didn't want to hurt you or our relationship, she said softly. But now, everything makes sense. His arrogance, his sense of entitlement, it's personal for him, too. Daniel gripped the edge of the table, staring at her. I can't believe it. All this time, I thought I knew him. Sophia squeezed his hand. You knew his face, Daniel, not his heart. Later that afternoon, Daniel returned to the office and confronted Lucas directly. The conference room was empty, save for the faint echo of the air conditioning. Lucas, Daniel began, voice low but steady. We need to talk. Lucas looked up from his phone, arching a brow. Oh, about what? About the contract, Daniel said, sliding the folder across the table. About the clauses, the offshore accounts, and the emails I've seen. I know what you've been doing. Lucas's face remained calm, but Daniel thought he saw the tiniest flicker of something behind his eyes. Surprise? Amusement? Daniel couldn't tell. You've been very thorough, Lucas said slowly. But, Danny, you're reading things in context you don't understand. Some of those emails were hypothetical discussions, nothing concrete. Daniel's jaw tightened. Hypothetical? So manipulating the contract, routing funds offshore. That's just creative brainstorming. Lucas shrugged, smiling faintly. Business is messy. You're learning that now. Don't let it eat you alive. Daniel slammed his fist on the table, trying to control his rage. I trusted you. We built this together. And you betrayed me. Lucas's smile didn't falter. Danny, betrayal is subjective. I'm just making sure we survive, that the company survives. Sometimes, tough decisions hurt people you care about. You'll understand one day. Daniel's heart pounded. The calm arrogance, the manipulative reasoning. Everything he had suspected was real. Lucas wasn't just ambitious. He was dangerous. That evening, Daniel returned home, exhausted and angry. Sophia met him at the door, concern etched on her face. What happened? She asked, immediately sensing the storm. He's more dangerous than I imagined, Daniel said, pacing the living room. I confronted him, told him I know everything. He laughed it off, tried to justify it, even blamed me for overreacting. Sophia's eyes widened. An investor? The company? We have to move carefully, Daniel said. I can't act recklessly, but I won't let him win. Not this time. He's gone too far. Sophia placed a hand on his arm. Daniel, we're with you. But promise me, whatever you do, don't let him push you over the edge. Your life, your safety, that matters too. Daniel nodded, taking a deep breath. I know. I can't stop now. This isn't just about money or control. It's about respect, about truth, about everything we believed in. And he stole that. For the first time in days, Daniel felt a strange clarity. The fight ahead would be brutal. Lucas was clever, ruthless, and manipulative. But Daniel had proof, witnesses, and a resolve that comes from having been deeply wronged. He would need every ounce of patience, intelligence, and courage to win. And so, as the city lights flickered against his window, Daniel began to plan. The counterplay had begun. Daniel arrived at the office early, the air outside crisp and biting. His mind was buzzing, replaying his late-night conversations with Sophia and Helena, the lawyer. Every fiber of him was focused. He knew Lucas would continue to act as if nothing were wrong, pretending to maintain the camaraderie and trust he had carefully cultivated. But Daniel had discovered the cracks, and now it was time to find leverage. He walked quietly through the office, nodding politely at the few early arrivals. Miguel, the cleaner, shot him a discreet nod, as if silently offering his support. Daniel smiled faintly in return. At his desk, he waited until the office began to fill. Then he turned his attention to a key developer, Mariana, who had been with the company since the early startup days. She was brilliant, fiercely loyal to the product, and Daniel had always suspected she sensed the tension between him and Lucas. Mariana, Daniel said quietly, motioning her over to a corner. Can we talk? She nodded, her expression wary. Sure. Is this about the meeting? Daniel shook his head. Not exactly. I need your honesty. No filter. I need to know what's really happening with Lucas. Mariana glanced around nervously, lowering her voice. I don't want to get in trouble, but I've noticed some financial irregularities. Funds moving to accounts that aren't listed in the main ledger. At first, I thought it was part of the new investment strategy, but it doesn't add up. I've kept quiet because I wasn't sure. Daniel's heart raced. Do you have proof? Screenshots? Logs? Anything? Mariana hesitated. Yes, I've been tracking it quietly. I didn't know who to trust. Daniel smiled faintly, a spark of hope. You could trust me. I'll protect you. This could be crucial. Mariana nodded, pulling out a USB drive. This has everything I've documented over the past 3 months. Be careful, Daniel. If Lucas finds out, I will be careful, Daniel assured her, taking the drive. And Mariana, thank you. You just made a huge difference. The day passed in a blur. Lucas moved through the office like a king surveying his kingdom, unaware, or perhaps pretending to be, that Daniel was no longer naive. He laughed casually with employees, made jokes that once felt endearing, and checked his phone periodically, as if everything were perfectly under control. Daniel, meanwhile, reviewed Mariana's files, cross-referencing them with the emails from Lucas's flash drive. His stomach churned as the pieces fell into place, funds siphoned into. offshore accounts, small transfers disguised as operational X. Pinces, contracts rewritten without his knowledge. Lucas wasn't just trying to gain control. He was siphoning wealth under the guise of business operations. By late afternoon, Daniel knew it was time to escalate. He scheduled a private meeting with Lucas under the pretense of discussing the upcoming investor presentation. The conference room was empty when Daniel arrived. Lucas strolled in moments later, carrying a tablet, his signature confident grin plastered across his face. "Danny, perfect timing. Just the person I wanted to talk to," Lucas said cheerfully. "Everything's on track for the investor meeting tomorrow. Don't you love smooth execution?" Daniel's hands rested on the table, fingers tapping lightly. "Lucas, we need to talk about the finances." Lucas's grin faltered slightly. "Finance? Everything's under control. What's the concern?" Daniel leaned forward. "I've seen the discrepancies. Transfers to unaccounted accounts, contracts altered, emails. You're siphoning company funds, aren't you?" Lucas's eyes narrowed, but his tone remained calm. "Siphoning? Danny, that's a harsh word. Look, I'm managing cash flow strategically. You've never been involved in these details, so you might be confused." Daniel's voice hardened. "I'm not confused. I have evidence. Mariana has logs, emails, transaction records. I've seen everything. And now so do you." Lucas leaned back, still smiling faintly, but Daniel saw it. A flicker of irritation, a crack in the mask. "You're serious? You've been digging behind my back." Daniel's fingers drummed on the table. "I have to protect the company. And myself. You betrayed me, Lucas. Every contract, every trust you claimed, every word you said, it was all a lie." Lucas's voice dropped, calm but dangerous. "Danny, don't make this personal. It's business. You know the stakes. If this goes public, if investors find out, you'll ruin the company before we even take it to market." "I don't care about ruin," Daniel said firmly. "I care about justice. I care about what's right. And you've gone too far." For a moment, the room was silent, the tension so thick it was almost physical. Lucas studied Daniel, eyes sharp, calculating. Then he laughed softly. "You've grown up, haven't you? From naive Danny to something else. I underestimated you. I suppose this changes the game." Daniel met his gaze. "It does. And I'm not afraid to play it." That evening, Daniel returned home, exhausted but determined. He sat at his kitchen table with Sophia, spreading out all the files and documents he had collected. The flash drive, Mariana's logs, the contracts, and the emails. This is everything," he said, his voice tight with both relief and tension. "I can take him down if I move carefully. But if I slip up," Sophia reached out, placing her hand over his. "You won't slip up. You've prepared, you've documented everything. And I'll be here with you. We just have to stay smart." Daniel nodded. "I can't believe how far he went to betray me, to betray everyone who trusted him." "He's a snake," Sophia said bluntly. "But even snakes can be trapped." Daniel's lips curled into a faint, grim smile. "Then it's time to set the trap." Over the next few days, Daniel moved carefully, consolidating his evidence and planning his next moves. He spoke quietly with Mariana and a few other trusted employees, gathering additional documents and ensuring that anyone who could support his case was discreetly aligned. Lucas, meanwhile, remained oblivious, or perhaps overconfident, continuing to flaunt his charm and authority. He was still the same charismatic partner to the outside world, laughing in meetings, making investors feel at ease, and subtly undermining Daniel in ways that would have gone unnoticed if Daniel hadn't been prepared. Daniel began recording conversations with Lucas during meetings, ensuring that any future claims would be backed by proof. Each recording, each document strengthened his position. By the end of the week, Daniel had a detailed map of Lucas's schemes, altered contracts, diverted funds, secret communications, and documented plans to consolidate control. The leverage was in his hands. He sat alone in his office one night, the city lights glowing through the window, reflecting in his eyes. He whispered to himself, almost as a vow, "You thought I wouldn't see. You thought I'd be naive. But I see everything now, Lucas. And when the time comes, you'll pay for every lie, every betrayal." It was the first night Daniel felt both fear and control. The first night he knew he could fight and win. Daniel woke before sunrise, the city still cloaked in gray silence. He sat at his kitchen table, coffee cooling in front of him, scrolling through the latest updates from Mariana. Every line, every number, every flag transaction made his chest tighten. Lucas had been careful, meticulous, and ruthless, but Daniel had caught him. And now he had to act strategically, because one wrong move could destroy everything. Sophia entered quietly, wrapping a blanket around her shoulders. "Another sleepless night?" she asked softly, her voice a comfort and a tether to reality. Daniel rubbed his eyes. "I can't stop thinking about it. He's not just threatening the company, he's threatening me. Everything we built, every bit of trust, it's all hanging by a thread." Sophia sat across from him, taking his hand. "You have evidence now. You're not helpless. You just have to stay smart. Don't let him manipulate you like he always has." "I know," Daniel said, voice tight. "But every time I see him, I feel like a fool. I trusted him, and he used that trust to plan my downfall." Sophia squeezed his hand. "Then let him regret it. But don't let him see that you're rattled." At the office, the tension was palpable. Lucas moved through the space with a practiced charisma, greeting employees, checking emails, and casually undermining Daniel in subtle ways. He smiled, laughed, and presented himself as the confident, visionary co-founder. But every word, every gesture was a calculated blade. Daniel's phone buzzed. A message from Mariana. "We have a problem. One of the junior employees is resigning. Lucas has been pressuring them. They're scared. Need to discuss." Daniel felt a tight, knot form in his stomach. The web of control Lucas had spun was beginning to snap at the edges. Fear was spreading. He found Mariana in the break room, tried to remain calm while sipping a cup of coffee. "What happened?" he asked quietly. She hesitated. "He cornered them yesterday, threatened them, said if they didn't fall in line, they'd be out of a job. I think he knows someone's helping you." Daniel exhaled slowly. "He's dangerous, but if they've seen the truth, we're stronger than he thinks. I need to keep them protected, keep evidence intact. Can you help me?" Mariana nodded firmly. "I'll do whatever it takes." Later that morning, the office was filled with a tense energy. Daniel watched Lucas conduct a team meeting, the subtle manipulations on full display. He smiled at the employees, tossing compliments like candy, while quietly undermining Daniel's authority. After the meeting, Daniel approached him privately. The conference room was empty, and the fluorescent lights hummed overhead. "Lucas," Daniel began, voice calm but firm, "we need to talk about the offshore transfers, the altered contracts, the emails. I know what you're doing." Lucas looked up from his tablet, a faint smile curling his lips. "Ah, Danny, you've been busy digging. Admirable. But let's not get dramatic. It's just business." Daniel's jaw tightened. "Business? This is theft, manipulation, betrayal. You've crossed every line." Lucas leaned back, folding his arms. "You're letting emotion cloud your judgment. If you act impulsively, you could destroy everything we've worked for. Think about the investor. Think about the staff. Think about your reputation." Daniel's voice dropped to a cold whisper. "I've already thought about it, and I don't care about reputation or fear. I care about what's right, and I won't let you win." Lucas chuckled softly, a sound that was both amused and threatening. "Bold words, Danny. But remember, you're the one who's been naive all these years. You thought friendship was stronger than ambition. You were wrong." The confrontation left Daniel shaken, but resolute. That night, he sat at his kitchen table, reviewing the collected evidence and plotting his next moves. He called Sophia, who had remained a steady presence through the chaos. "I confronted him today," Daniel admitted, voice low. He laughed. "Try to make me feel small, like I was overreacting. But I don't think he realizes how much I know." "You're doing the right thing," Sophia said firmly. "But you need to prepare for retaliation. He's smart, manipulative, he'll strike back." Daniel's hands clenched. "I know. He's already started. People are scared. He's pressuring employees. He's trying to isolate me." "Then you need to protect your allies," Sophia said. "Make sure they're safe. Make sure he can't hurt them. That's how you keep control." Daniel nodded. "I'll do it. I won't let him break me." or anyone else. The next day, Daniel began reaching out quietly to key employees, ensuring they knew the truth and providing guidance on how to protect themselves. He spoke with Mariana and another junior developer, reviewing all the evidence, emails, and financial records. Each conversation increased both his confidence and the weight of responsibility he carried. By afternoon, the investor called. Daniel took the call privately in his office, careful to maintain composure. "Mr. Valente," the investor said, her tone cautious. "I wanted to discuss the equity clause and some financial details. There have been questions raised." Daniel nodded, swallowing. "Understand. I can assure you that the discrepancies were administrative errors, not intentional. I'm reviewing them carefully and will provide complete transparency." The investor hesitated. "We'll need full documentation and assurance that the partnership is stable." Daniel forced a steady tone. "You'll have it. I'm committed to the company and to its future." After the call, Daniel exhaled, a small victory, but also a reminder of the stakes. Lucas's manipulations could still have devastating consequences if he misstepped. Later, in the office, Lucas approached him with a casual smile. "You seem busy," he said, peering over Daniel's shoulder. "Careful not to overdo it. Stress is bad for you." Daniel looked up, meeting Lucas's gaze. "I'm fine. Focused." Lucas chuckled, shaking his head. "You're getting serious. I almost don't recognize you. Don't lose yourself in all this detective work." Daniel's hands remained steady on the desk. "I haven't lost myself, but I won't let you take what's mine. Not my company, not my trust, not my life." Lucas's eyes flickered, ever so slightly, before returning to calm. "We'll see, Danny. We'll see who comes out on top." That night, Daniel returned home, exhausted but resolute. Sophia waited, reading quietly on the couch. "They're scared," Daniel said, sitting beside her. "Some employees want to leave. Lucas is pushing them, but I've spoken to them, protected them. They're not alone." Sophia nodded. "Good. Keep that up. Protecting them protects you too." Daniel leaned back, taking a deep breath. "I've never felt so much anger and so much clarity. I can't let him win, and I won't." Sophia placed a hand over his. "You're stronger than you know, and you're not alone. Remember that." Daniel's eyes hardened, reflecting the city lights through the window. The battle was escalating. Lucas was dangerous, ruthless, and willing to destroy anything to maintain control. But Daniel had proof, allies, and the resolve of someone who had been deeply betrayed and who now had nothing to lose. He whispered to himself, almost a vow, "This ends soon, Lucas. One way or another, it ends soon." The office was quieter than usual that Friday afternoon. Most employees had left early, exhausted by the mounting tension that Lucas had cultivated over the past weeks. Daniel arrived with purpose, his briefcase heavy with meticulously organized files, contracts, and a recorder he had carefully hidden in his pocket. Tonight, the plan would begin. Lucas needed to reveal his own betrayal in a way that could not be denied. He sat at his desk, tapping his fingers lightly, while Mariana and two trusted colleagues reviewed final figures for the investor presentation. Each document, each spreadsheet, each email had been cross-referenced multiple times. Daniel knew there could be no mistakes. Lucas thrived on exploiting small cracks. "Everything looks correct," Mariana said, glancing up from her laptop. "The investor won't have a reason to doubt the company's numbers." "Good," Daniel replied, his eyes scanning the office for any sign of Lucas. "Remember, stay calm tonight. Don't let him suspect anything. He's clever, and he will test us." Mariana nodded, her expression serious. "We understand. Just be careful, Daniel." Lucas appeared moments later, striding into the office with his usual confident gait, carrying a tablet and a folder. His smile was casual, but Daniel caught the faint glimmer of curiosity or suspicion in his eyes as he scanned the near-empty room. "Danny, still here?" Lucas said cheerfully. "You're working late, as always." "Admirable." Daniel met his gaze steadily. "Just making sure everything is ready for tomorrow. The investor meeting is important." Lucas leaned against the desk, flipping through the folder in his hand. "Absolutely. Attention to detail is critical, and I see you've been thorough. His tone carried an almost imperceptible edge, as if testing Daniel's reactions. I've been thorough because I have to protect the company, Daniel said firmly. We both know how important it is to maintain integrity in the investor's eyes. Lucas smiled, though the edges of his mouth were tight. Integrity, yes. A concept easier said than maintained. Funny how people's definitions differ, isn't it? Daniel's heart raced, but he kept his composure. He activated the recorder discreetly, sliding it into a small folder so it was entirely hidden from view. Every word, every reaction, every subtle inflection mattered. Lucas continued, oblivious to the hidden recording, discussing the final details of the investor meeting. I've recalculated the forecasts, he said. We're ahead in every metric. If Danny here had followed my suggestions earlier, we'd have saved months of inefficiency. Daniel raised an eyebrow. Months? Lucas, some of the decisions you made, routing funds, contract changes, weren't just suggestions. They were unilateral moves without my knowledge. They could have cost us the company. Lucas's eyes narrowed, a flicker of irritation breaking through the calm facade. Unilateral? Danny, you're exaggerating. Every decision I made was for the good of the company. You just didn't understand the complexity of it. Complexity doesn't justify deception, Daniel said, his voice low but unwavering. Altering contracts, moving money offshore, hiding information, that's not complexity. That's betrayal. Lucas's laugh was soft, almost mocking. Betrayal? Oh, Danny, such dramatic words. But let's be honest, you've always been too trusting. Loyalty has its limits in the business world. Sometimes tough actions require harsh measures. Daniel remained calm, inching closer under the pretense of reviewing the investor materials. He slid a final folder across the table. So, let's make this clear. Every action you took, every document you altered, every fund you diverted, if this goes to an investor or the authorities, it's on record. And I have witnesses. Lucas froze, his composure flickering for the briefest second before returning to a calculated smile. Witnesses? Danny, you do realize you're implying misconduct on my part. That's serious. Are you threatening me? Daniel leaned forward, voice steady, controlled. I'm not threatening. I'm stating facts. I trusted you as a partner and a friend. You chose to betray that trust. Now it's time for accountability. Lucas's eyes glinted with a mixture of anger and amusement. Accountability? Yes, we'll see who holds the power in this office. But don't think for a second that you're untouchable, Danny. Power can shift quickly. Daniel's hand moved subtly, pressing the recorder button fully. The device would capture every confession, every defensive justification, and every arrogant admission Lucas made in the next moments. This was the proof Daniel needed. Not speculation, not rumors, but Lucas's own words and demeanor. For the next hour, Lucas talked. He spoke of strategic moves, operational decisions, and how he had managed the company in Daniel's absence. He casually admitted transferring funds to what he claimed were necessary offshore structures and casually defended the altered contracts as protective measures. You see, Danny, Lucas said with a faint smirk, everything I've done was to ensure the company's survival. You might not see it now, but in 5 years, you'll thank me. You're too close to the day-to-day to understand the big picture. Daniel kept his face neutral, though his mind raced. Every word Lucas spoke, every justification, was now captured. Every arrogance-laced explanation, every subtle confession of unilateral action, proof that could not be denied. You're manipulating the truth, Daniel said calmly. Misrepresenting facts, diverting funds, altering contracts, all under the guise of protection. And you knew I wouldn't notice until it was too late. Lucas leaned back, confident, yet there was a faint tension in his posture. You give yourself too much credit, Danny. I'm the one managing the company. You're lucky you've been able to survive in my shadow this long. Daniel paused, letting the words hang. Then he said softly, but firmly, lucky? No, Lucas. I've survived because I was vigilant, and now, you've spoken for the record. Lucas's eyes narrowed. For the record? What are you talking about? Daniel tapped the folder, and Lucas realized too late. Yes, Daniel interrupted, the recording. Every word you've just said is documented. Every excuse, every rationalization, every admission. And now, it's irrefutable. Lucas's face darkened, a rare flash of genuine fear crossing his features. You can't use that. You have no idea what you're doing. Daniel's gaze remained steady. I've done exactly what I needed. You chose to betray me. You chose deception. You chose arrogance. And now, the consequences begin. After Lucas stormed out, furious and unmasked, Daniel exhaled, the tension leaving him in waves. He knew the battle was far from over. Lucas would fight back, legally, personally, and psychologically. But tonight, Daniel had the upper hand. He had captured the proof of betrayal, proof that could not be dismissed or manipulated. Sophia arrived later that evening, sensing the change in atmosphere as soon as she entered. Daniel, what happened? He gestured to the office, now quiet and still. He admitted everything. Not to me. He thought he was clever, but on record, his arrogance became his undoing. Sophia smiled faintly, relief and admiration mingling in her expression. Then we have him. Every word, every lie. You finally caught him at his own game. Daniel nodded. Yes, but the fight isn't over. He'll retaliate. He's dangerous. We have to be ready for anything. Sophia took his hand, and we will be together. Daniel looked out the office window at the city lights, his mind sharp and focused. He whispered to himself, almost like a vow, "This ends soon, Lucas. One way or another. You'll answer for everything." For the first time in weeks, Daniel felt this surge of control. The knowledge that betrayal could be confronted, exposed, and ultimately defeated. The trap was set, the proof secured, and the reckoning was near. The morning after Daniel's trap worked, the office felt different. Heavy, tense, almost electric. Employees whispered in corners, their eyes darting toward Lucas, who had arrived late, his usual composure fraying at the edges. The charismatic, untouchable co-founder facade was cracked, and the staff had noticed. Daniel watched quietly from his desk, pretending to review spreadsheets, though his mind was focused entirely on Lucas. The arrogance, the smirk, the calculated charm. None of it could mask the uncertainty now creeping into his demeanor. Mariana approached him quietly. "He knows something's wrong," she whispered. "I saw him in the hallway, muttering to himself. People are scared, but they're watching him closely. This might be our moment." Daniel nodded, his hands tightening into fists. "Good. Keep everyone calm. Make sure no one leaves or acts rashly. We have to stay unified." By mid-morning, the first ripple of consequences hit. Daniel received an email from the company's largest investor, a request for a private meeting at their office immediately. He and Sophia arrived, walking briskly into a sleek, glass-walled conference room. The investor, Claire Thompson, a sharp woman in her 50s, gestured for them to sit. "Mr. Valente, Miss Silva," she began, her tone measured, "we've received some troubling information. There are allegations of financial mismanagement, unilateral decisions, and irregular transfers in your company. We want clarity and evidence." Daniel's heart raced, but he maintained a calm, confident exterior. "Claire, we anticipated this. I have all documentation, including emails, contracts, and records of financial transactions. I can assure you, these matters are being addressed thoroughly and transparently." Claire leaned forward. "And what about your partner? Is he aware that these issues have been uncovered?" Daniel took a steady breath. "Yes, he's been made aware. We're taking immediate steps to rectify all discrepancies and ensure accountability." Claire's eyes narrowed. "Mr. Valente, I need honesty. We invest in companies we can trust. If there is even a hint of deception, it jeopardizes everything. Can I trust that you are handling this personally and decisively?" "You can," Daniel said firmly. "I've documented everything, and we are moving to resolve this. This company's integrity and its future is my priority." Claire nodded slowly. "Very well. We'll review the evidence. But Mr. Valente, one misstep and our confidence could evaporate. Daniel exhaled as they left the building. "We have her on our side," he said quietly to Sophia. "But it's delicate. Every move from here on matters." Back at the office, the atmosphere was tense. Lucas had retreated to his office, pacing nervously. For the first time, Daniel could see cracks in his co-founder's carefully constructed persona. Lines of frustration, a jaw tight with restrained anger, a face flickering between arrogance and fear. Lucas burst into Daniel's office, slamming the door behind him. "You think you've won?" he spat, eyes blazing. "This isn't over, Danny. You're overstepping. You have no idea what's at stake." Daniel remained seated, calm but alert. "I'm not overstepping. I'm confronting betrayal, and you've left me no choice." Lucas's laugh was sharp, bitter. "Choice? You think this is a game? You think I'll go quietly while you destroy everything I built? You'll regret this, I promise." Daniel leaned forward, voice steady, unwavering. "I have proof, Lucas. Every transfer, every contract change, every lie you've told me, it's documented. You've already admitted it. And now, it's a matter of record." Lucas's eyes flickered with panic, then hardened. "Record? You're bluffing. You think a few emails and a recording can ruin me? You don't understand the reach I have. The influence. People like you, they get crushed before they even see it coming." Daniel's expression didn't waver. "You underestimated me. You miscalculated. And now, you're facing the consequences of your choices." The day dragged on with mounting tension. Employees whispered in hushed tones, casting wary glances at Lucas, who retreated to his office to avoid confrontation but made calls in rapid bursts, trying to salvage what control he could. Daniel stayed calm, focused, and organized, reviewing the evidence and strategizing the next steps with Mariana and Sophia. By evening, legal representatives arrived to mediate the situation. Helena, Daniel's lawyer, had prepared meticulously. Lucas sat across from them, folding his arms, trying to project control, but the tightness around his eyes betrayed him. "Lucas," Helena began, voice firm and precise, "we have irrefutable evidence of contract alterations, unauthorized financial transfers, and deliberate concealment from your co-founder and the company. You can dispute this, but the documentation is clear." Lucas leaned back, eyes scanning the room, calculating. "Clear? There's always a way to reinterpret the facts. You're all jumping to conclusions." Daniel interrupted calmly, but with authority. "No, Lucas. The facts are undeniable. Emails, contracts, transfers, and your own words captured on recording. There's no interpretation that absolves you." Lucas's face reddened, a mixture of rage and desperation. "You think this is fair? You think it's just?" Daniel's eyes held steady. "It's not about fairness, Lucas. It's about accountability. You chose deception. You betrayed the trust of your partner, your employees, and this company. That is your choice, not mine." Helena spoke again, her tone unwavering. "We recommend immediate restructuring of leadership, oversight of financial activities, and suspension of unilateral authority until this matter is fully resolved. Legal consequences may follow, and investors must be informed in accordance with regulations." Lucas's hands clenched into fists, shaking slightly. "You won't get away with this. Not without consequences for yourself." Daniel's voice dropped low, calm but filled with steel. "I don't need to get away with anything. You need to answer for your actions. And that begins now." After the meeting, the first public consequences began to unfold. Employees who had remained fearful of Lucas's influence started to speak quietly with HR, corroborating Daniel's evidence. Investors began scrutinizing the company's accounts, asking for explanations that Lucas could no longer provide. The media, business reporters who had once admired the startup's meteoric rise, caught wind of internal turmoil, framing the story as a cautionary tale of deceit and ambition gone too far. Daniel felt a mix of relief and exhaustion. The battle was far from over, but Lucas's empire of manipulation was beginning to crumble. That evening, Daniel returned home, finding Sophia waiting, her expression tense but hopeful. "They're listening," Daniel said, collapsing into a chair. "Lucas is losing credibility. Employees are coming forward. Investors are demanding answers. He's cornered. Sophia sat beside him. And you? How are you holding up? Daniel rubbed his temples. Exhausted, angry, but also determined. I never imagined betrayal could be so personal, so invasive. But I've learned something about myself in all this. I can stand up even when the odds are stacked against me. Even when the person I trusted most tried to destroy me. Sophia placed a hand on his shoulder. You've proven that. And now it's time to finish this. Carefully but decisively. You have everyone and everything you need. Daniel nodded, looking out the window at the city lights. His mind raced with the next steps. Legal action, investor reassurances, employee protection, and ultimately, ensuring Lucas faced the full consequences of his betrayal. He whispered softly, almost as a vow, "This isn't just about a company anymore. It's about truth, justice, and you, Lucas, will pay for every lie." For the first time in weeks, Daniel felt a strange calm. The storm of betrayal had struck, but now the tide was turning. The unraveling had begun, and Daniel would see it through to the very end. The office felt like a battlefield. By mid-morning, whispers had grown into murmurs, and murmurs into outright speculation. Lucas's once commanding presence was reduced to tense gestures and forced smiles, while Daniel moved with quiet authority, documents and recordings ready, fully aware of every move. Mariana approached, her face pale but determined. "Daniel, we have a situation. Some of the investors are calling. They want confirmation of the evidence, and they're asking for meetings with you personally." Daniel exhaled slowly. "Good. That means they're listening. It also means Lucas is panicking. Let's coordinate responses carefully. Transparency, calm, documentation. That's our edge." Lucas arrived late, his usual confidence replaced by sharp glances and clenched fists. He passed Daniel's desk without a word, muttering under his breath. Employees quickly averted their eyes, sensing the tension but not wanting to intervene. Lucas finally confronted Daniel in the conference room, slamming the door behind him. "Danny," he spat, his voice trembling with anger and fear, "this ends now. You pushed too far. I won't let you ruin me. I built this company, and I'll destroy anything that stands in my way." Daniel remained seated, calm, hands resting on a folder containing the most damning evidence. "Lucas, you destroyed your own standing with every action. You chose deception over partnership. Every document, every transfer, every lie you told, it's all here. And it's undeniable." Lucas's eyes narrowed, pacing like a predator cornered. "You think you can humiliate me in front of the investors, the employees, the world? You don't understand power. You don't understand influence. I can fight this, legally, personally, publicly. You'll regret this." Daniel's voice was steady, sharp. "No, Lucas, you'll regret betraying the people who trusted you. This isn't about revenge, it's about accountability. And you've given me everything I need to ensure that accountability is absolute." By noon, Daniel was in his first investor meeting since the trap had been set. He presented all the documentation, altered contracts, financial diversions, and, most importantly, the recording of Lucas's admissions. "Ladies and gentlemen," Daniel began, his tone composed, "this evidence demonstrates a breach of fiduciary duty by my former co-founder. It is regrettable, but necessary for transparency. We are committed to rectifying all discrepancies and ensuring the company's integrity moving forward." Claire Thompson, the lead investor, leaned forward, reviewing the files. "This is thorough," she said, her voice controlled but impressed. "And irrefutable. Mr. Valente, you've managed this situation with remarkable composure. We expected uncertainty, but your evidence is clear, and your plan for remediation is sound." Daniel nodded, suppressing a smile. "Thank you. We will implement oversight, ensure employee protection, and maintain full transparency moving forward." Meanwhile, Lucas had been cornered in his office. The HR manager had quietly compiled corroborating testimonies from employees who had previously been too afraid to speak. Mariana and other trusted colleagues had prepared additional documentation. Lucas realized that his influence was slipping, and his attempts to manipulate staff and investors were failing. In a final, desperate bid, Lucas called a private meeting with Daniel, away from witnesses. The air in the small office was tense, every sound amplified in the silent space. "Danny," Lucas began, his voice almost pleading, "I can fix this. I can make it right. I just need a chance to explain to—" Daniel held up a hand. "No, Lucas, you've had chances. Every email you sent, every contract you altered, every transfer you made, all choices. You knew exactly what you were doing. There is no explanation that justifies betrayal." Lucas's fists clenched, shaking with rage. "You think this is the end? You think you can destroy me? You'll see. People will take my side. Investors, employees, they'll turn on you." Daniel's tone was cold, controlled. "No one turned on anyone. You lost them the moment you chose deception. Your arrogance convinced you that loyalty could be manipulated. But trust isn't a resource to be spent. It's a responsibility. You failed that test." Lucas's next move was a calculated bluff. He attempted to contact journalists, attempting to spin the story as internal mismanagement rather than his own betrayal. Daniel anticipated this, having prepared a complete dossier of Lucas's actions, emails, and recorded admissions, ready to provide to any press inquiry. A reporter called the next morning, requesting comment. Daniel answered calmly, "Yes, I am aware of internal mismanagement. However, our investigation shows that all irregularities were initiated and concealed by a single individual, my former business partner, Lucas. We are taking full action to rectify the situation and protect employees and investors. The company's integrity remains intact, and we are committed to transparency and accountability." The reporter paused, impressed by Daniel's composure. "So, this is a matter of personal betrayal, not structural mismanagement?" Daniel's reply was precise. "Exactly. It is a matter of personal betrayal, and the consequences are being addressed appropriately." The fallout escalated rapidly. Investors demanded immediate restructuring. Board members moved to suspend Lucas's authority, and employees, emboldened by Daniel's leadership, began reporting additional incidents of misconduct. Lucas's influence evaporated as the web of evidence became undeniable. Lucas confronted Daniel one final time in the empty office late in the evening. His posture was slumped, his eyes dark with fury and fear. "This isn't over, Danny," he hissed. "You think exposing me will fix anything? You think you've won?" Daniel stood, calm and resolute. "I want accountability. That is enough. The company is safe, the employees are protected, and your actions are documented. That is victory, Lucas, not for me, but for everyone you try to betray." Lucas's voice broke slightly, the first crack in his armor. "You'll pay for this. You can't imagine what's coming." Daniel shook his head, unshaken. "I don't need to imagine. I see the truth, I documented it, and I acted on it. The consequences are yours to bear." By the end of the week, Lucas was formally suspended, his access revoked, and legal proceedings underway. The media began reporting on the scandal, emphasizing Daniel's courage, composure, and meticulous documentation. Employees returned to work with renewed trust, and investors expressed confidence in Daniel's leadership. Sophia met Daniel in the office one evening. Exhaustion and relief mirrored in her eyes. "You did it," she said softly. "You stood up, even when it seemed impossible." Daniel leaned back, a mix of fatigue and triumph in his posture. "We did it. The truth won. And it's not just about winning. It's about making sure betrayal doesn't destroy everything we built." Sophia placed a hand on his shoulder. "And it won't. Not anymore." Daniel looked out the window, city lights reflecting in his eyes, and whispered to himself, "This ends now. For the company, for the people, for trust." Lucas chose betrayal, and now he faces the reckoning he created. For the first time in months, Daniel felt a quiet victory. The storm of deceit, fear, and manipulation had struck, but through strategy, patience, and courage, he had survived, and justice had been set in motion. The morning sun filtered through the glass. Walls of the office, casting long shadows across. The conference room where Daniel had scheduled a final meeting with the board, investors, and key employees. The tension that had gripped the company for weeks was still palpable. But there was a new energy in the room, cautious optimism, a sense of purpose, and the quiet confidence that justice was being served. Daniel stood at the head of the table, folders neatly stacked, laptop open, and a presentation ready. Mariana, Sophia, and a few trusted colleagues were seated nearby, their eyes reflecting both exhaustion and determination. "Good morning, everyone," Daniel began, his tone calm but commanding. Over the past few weeks, this company has faced significant challenges. Challenges brought on by betrayal from within. I'm here today to provide a full account of what occurred, the steps we've taken to correct it, and our plan moving forward. There were murmurs in the room, but Daniel raised a hand to quiet them. I'll start with the facts. He outlined the evidence, presenting emails, altered contracts, and a recording of Lucas's admissions. The room remained silent, the weight of reality sinking in for everyone present. Investors leaned forward, absorbing every detail. Board members exchanged glances, the gravity of the situation clear. Lucas's actions were deliberate, Daniel continued, and they breached every level of trust necessary for a company to thrive. We have taken immediate steps to suspend his authority, protect our employees, and ensure full transparency moving forward. The company's integrity remains intact, and our path forward is strong. One investor, Claire Thompson, spoke first. "Mr. Valente, your leadership during this crisis has been exemplary. Not only have you documented and exposed misconduct, but you've also acted decisively to protect the company and its people. That takes courage, clarity, and integrity." Daniel nodded, a faint smile touching his lips. "Thank you, Claire. I take these responsibilities seriously, not just as a CEO, but as someone who values trust and accountability above all." The meeting ended with formal approval from the board and investors for the restructuring plan Daniel proposed. Employees, who had been anxiously observing the proceedings, now approached Daniel individually, offering quiet words of support and gratitude. Mariana lingered, her eyes shining with relief. "You did it, Daniel," she said softly. "You protected the company and all of us, and you did it without losing your focus or yourself." Daniel shook his head, humility in his expression. "We did it together. I couldn't have managed this without your diligence, courage, and loyalty. You trusted me with the truth, and that trust made all the difference." Mariana smiled, the weight of recent weeks lifting. "I'm just glad we can finally move forward." Meanwhile, Lucas faced the personal and legal consequences of his actions. Legal proceedings were underway, with the evidence Daniel had collected forming the foundation of the case against him. Lucas had attempted to spin the narrative publicly, but the irrefutable documents and recordings left him no room for manipulation. Daniel had requested one final meeting with Lucas before the proceedings continued. The meeting was arranged in a neutral location, a quiet conference room at the law firm, with Helena, Daniel's lawyer, present to ensure everything remained formal and professional. Lucas entered, attempting his usual confident demeanor, but the tension in his shoulders betrayed him. "Daniel," he said, voice strained but attempting casual authority, "I suppose this is to finalize the so-called resolution?" Daniel gestured to the chair opposite him. "Sit, Lucas. We need to talk about what comes next. Not threats, not excuses, just facts and accountability." Lucas sat jaw tight. "Facts? Right. Let's hear them then." Daniel spoke calmly, each word deliberate. "You betrayed the trust of your co-founder, employees, and investors. You altered contract, acts, diverted funds, and misrepresented the company's financial status. Every action you took was intentional and calculated. You were given opportunities to correct your path, and you refused. That is why the consequences are unavoidable." Lucas's eyes flickered with anger, then desperation. "Consequences? You think you can destroy me with words and papers? People like me, we survive, Danny. You underestimate the world outside this office." Daniel's gaze was steady, unwavering. "You overestimated yourself. You believed manipulation and deception could sustain your power. It cannot. Integrity, transparency, and accountability. These are what survive, Lucas. And now, you face the repercussions of your choices. Lucas leaned back, silent for a moment, his confident mask faltering. You think you're better than me, he muttered. I think I'm responsible, Daniel replied quietly but firmly. I acted on facts, not arrogance. You acted on ambition and deceit. The difference is clear. Helena intervened, voice neutral but firm. Lucas, the legal process will handle the rest. This meeting is not about judgment. It's about ensuring clarity. You understand your next steps and your obligations under the law. Lucas's expression darkened, a mixture of frustration and resignation. This isn't over. Daniel met his gaze evenly. It is over for what matters. The truth has been revealed, and accountability has begun. The rest is for the courts to decide. After Lucas left, Daniel and Sophia returned to the office. The city skyline glimmered outside the window, reflecting both the night and the promise of a new day. Sophia placed a hand on his shoulder. It's finally over, isn't it? Daniel exhaled, a weight lifting from his shoulders. It's over, yes, but the work doesn't stop. We need to rebuild trust, reassure investors, and ensure the company thrives beyond this crisis. Sophia smiled, a mixture of relief and admiration. You've learned something from all of this. About leadership to about yourself, about trust. Daniel nodded slowly. Yes, I've learned that betrayal can strike from the closest places, but patience, vigilance, and integrity can overcome it. And I've learned that leadership isn't about control, it's about responsibility. Sophia's eyes shone. Then let's move forward. Together. In the weeks that followed, Daniel implemented new safeguards for the company. Transparent auditing processes, strengthened legal oversight, and an open communication channel with employees. Lucas's suspension became permanent, and the legal proceedings confirmed his culpability, resulting in restitution and professional sanctions. Employees regained confidence, and the company stabilized. Daniel, once shaken by betrayal, emerged stronger, resilient, determined, and respected. Investors praised his leadership, and the company's reputation slowly recovered. One evening, Daniel stood in the office alone, reviewing the city skyline. Mariana entered quietly, holding 2 cups of coffee. Thought you could use this, she said, offering one to him. Daniel smiled faintly. Thanks. It's peaceful tonight. Hard to believe how far we've come. Mariana nodded. It's because you didn't let betrayal define you. You turned it into action, strategy, and leadership. That's rare. Daniel raised his cup in quiet acknowledgement. To integrity, vigilance, and truth. And to the people who stand by you when it matters most. Mariana smiled. To the future, Danny. A future built on trust. Daniel gazed out at the skyline, feeling a sense of closure he hadn't imagined possible weeks ago. Lucas's betrayal had been devastating, but had also revealed his own strengths, resilience, and moral compass. He had survived the storm, protected those who trusted him, and ensured that justice was served. He whispered to himself, a final vow for what had been endured. Betrayal struck deep, but it doesn't define me. Integrity, courage, and truth endure. And so does this company. For the first time in months, Daniel felt unburdened, ready to embrace the future with clarity, confidence, and the knowledge that even the deepest betrayals could be faced and overcome.